Welcome, everyone in the United States, Canada, and around the world to another episode of It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast of overcomers and useful information to better our daily life and mental well being. I am your host, Ron Rapaport. I would like to thank all our listeners, viewers, and our sponsors and supporters for making the podcast such a success. The podcast may also be accessed through our website, it's a wrap with rap.com, where you can find all the episodes, previews of future episodes, and unique products and services offered by our sponsors, as well as the podcast Book Nook, showcasing many of the books our authors have authored that can be purchased from Amazon. Now, my guest today is Robert Christophor Coppes from Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Bob is a scientist, death researcher, and retired financier and economist who has studied near death experiences, we'll call them NDEs for short, for decades. He has lectured on this topic in the United States and in Europe. His latest book on NDEs, titled Impressions of Near Death Experiences, Quotations from over 100 experiencers, contains a wealth of quotes from a variety of NDE experiences and is a fascinating read. I read the book myself, and it was a fascinating learning experience and gave me a deeper understanding of the human experience. Bob is a board member of IANDS, the International Association for Near Death Studies. Bob is with us today to share information as to what near death experiences are and share experiences from what we'll call NDEers to give us an understanding of the subject of near death experiences. From Amsterdam, the Netherlands, welcome, Bob, to the podcast.
Wow, thank you very much for having me. That's a really complete introduction. I cannot add anything there.
Well, I'm glad I did a good job. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get interested in studying and researching near death experiences and the afterlife?
Well, okay, I'm actually an American, South American. I was born in Venezuela. Then we moved after 6 years to Iran, Persia. I stayed there for a number of years, and only then we returned back to the Netherlands, where I got my education. And it was in economics, something totally different. But I
Yeah.
was always very interested in religion. I was brought up Roman Catholic, but that didn't go well with me because they believed in a judgment after death and hell and purgatory, and that didn't sit well with me. So when I read the book during my study somewhere about Raymond Moody's book about near-death experiences, the first one who coined the term near-death experience. I thought this is mighty interesting,
Mm.
especially because during life reviews of NDEers in his book, they said there was no judgment at all. And then I thought, well, this is reality. But I did my career in central banking, and then after, well, like 30 years ago, I was thinking I want to know something more and more in depth about near death experiences, and I started studying them, and that got out of hand.
And really intrigued you. Yeah. Now, there are, of course, people out there skeptical of near-death experiences and they haven't grasped the significance of them. What is your thought on that?
I understand that. I mean, if you hear these stories of near-death experiencers, they are such nice stories about love and compassion and an afterlife where we will all go to, where it's good. And those sound like fairy tales. And so I can understand very well that people don't buy these things, these stories. But there is such a good information out there, also circumstantial evidence that these experiences seem to have a real basis. And the circumstantial evidence actually is veridical observations, so verifiable out-of-body observations, where people have been having their NDE They go outside their body. They can roam around the place where they have been, like in the hospital or in a crashed side of their car, an accident, and they can see what is happening there. And they overhear conversations of doctors. They see what the doctors do. They can later, to the astonishment of the doctors, really tell what they did. And they couldn't have seen it because they were under sedation. So they were out. And
Right.
they, nevertheless, they saw what was happening. So that gives you circumstantial evidence that your consciousness can be outside your body. And there are so many of these stories. There actually has been a book published by the International Association for Near-Death Studies about hundreds of these quotes. And maybe I can flash that to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Put the
It's
book
it's
up
a
there.
very good read. It's The Self Does Not Die. And there are hundreds of these stories in it. And the interesting thing is also that there is a second category of vertical observations, because what I just mentioned is the first category. That's how I define them. That's where people see stuff while they're on Earth still. But near-death experiences tell that they have been on the other side, that they have been in heaven or on the doorstep of heaven. So there are also stories of near-death experiencers who, during their stay in on the other side, heard things, were told things that were later confirmed and were true. Let me give you just an example
Yeah.
where a woman um, had her NDE as a consequence of an operation. And she then finds herself meeting the light, unconditional love, but also deceased relatives. And most of them, or all of them, she recognized except for one person who presented himself as a baby boy, told her, remember how I look like, remember my clothes, remember my face. And when you go back, you will have to go back, tell your dad what you saw and ask about me. So when she was resuscitated again, she asked her dad, and what appeared to be is that she had a baby brother born before her, but died within a few hours or a day or so. And then this person, the family never spoke about this person, this baby boy, and she didn't know about him until she heard this in on the other side. So, and there are also hundreds or very many of these stories that give information on the other side that could be verified later on.
Wow. Now, is there you kind of answered my next question, but is there research going on? What kind of research is going on?
There has been good research in the Netherlands that has been published in the Lancet. It's a very important medical journal.
Yeah.
But the research was done like 20 years ago, over a time span of 10 years. So they started like 25 years ago or so, or 30 years ago. And it was done in 13 hospitals. And every cardiac arrest that was brought in and resuscitated later, they would ask one question: do you have recollection of the time you were out? And the interesting thing was that of the 344 cases in the database, about 62 had a recollection of being in some place, having a sight of light and stuff like that. So those had NDEs. Now then you have two groups, one group that doesn't have an NDE and one that does. And then you can compare them and you can see if there's a difference. Because if there's a difference between both groups, that might be the reason why people have an NDE. Well, it showed, the results showed that there are no differences. They both have a lack of oxygen. They both were dying, so they had these chemical reactions in the brain that could have triggered perhaps an NDE. But that was all not the case because both groups had it. And there were some other things that they looked after. So that is, and that research is reproducible in other places. You can do it all. Yeah, that's important for science that you can repeat research and have similar outcomes. And they did that in the US and in the UK, United Kingdom.
Now,
But
in
other
your
research is this vertical observations kind of thing.
yeah. Now, in your opinion, Bob, do you believe that many NDEs are simply not reported for whatever reason?
Yes, the estimation, however, is that 4 to 5% of the people has had an NDE. Now you have to imagine how much that is. That's really a big number,
Yeah.
because that means that out of 25 or 20 people that you know, there is one who had an NDE. So uh, you just go into your friends and family and ask, and you will find one or more.
And a lot of people just don't come forward with this
No,
information.
because you know, sometimes people know that if they come forward with these stories that are so out of this world,
Yeah.
that people will not believe them. So it is something that they keep for themselves. Another thing is that they need to get grasp of what they had gone through, because it's so strange, it's so out of this world, it's so not normal, it's not nothing that has to do with our present world where we sit on chairs and have to abide by time. On the other side, there is no time, or all time is there at the same time. If you think of a place, you can go there just in a second. That's not normal. You can see everything from all vantage points all at once. You don't have to run around to see it from all points of views. You can see it immediately. You understand everything. And that is something they cannot wrap their head around. It's difficult. So they first need to cope with it themselves, and then maybe they later will tell relatives if they feel that relatives are would be open to it. But not
Right.
everyone is. That's the problem.
Yeah. Uh, you were talking about the time difference. So, in other words, on the other side, people are saying, NDEers are saying, I'm thinking of what's my mother doing right now? Our guest and supporter of the It's a Wrap with Rap podcast, Jennifer Kramer Miller, has authored a nonfiction true story titled Incurable Optimist: Living with Illness and Chronic Hope. This inspirational memoir of a 22-year-old woman's sudden autoimmune kidney failure details a resilient journey of chronic illness, unfailing love, and moving forward with joy. At 22, Jennifer was thrilled with her new job, charming boyfriend, and Seattle apartment. The day she received a devastating autoimmune diagnosis, planning for her bright future went to finding herself soaking in a hospital pillow with tears and grappling with words like progressive and incurable. That day, Jennifer crossed over from wellness to chronic illness, from thriving to kidney failure. Her chances of survival hinged upon the expertise of doctors, the generosity of strangers, and the benevolence of loved ones. Spanning 2+ decades, this family love story explores loss and acceptance, moving forward with uncertainty, and forging a path of joy. This award-winning book gives us a real look at what it is like to be living with illness. With a crystal clear writing style, Jennifer describes the fear and desperation after her diagnosis while bravely holding on to resilience, joy, and hope. We have all heard the words dialysis and transplant, but do we really know what those words mean to live them? You will, through Jennifer's writing style, feel that you are walking in her shoes and get a real appreciation for what one goes through with this condition. And after you are finished reading the book, have a greater appreciation for your own kidneys and those people who donate their kidneys out of the goodness of their heart. After 4 kidney transplants, Jennifer is here to shine a bright light on people helping people in difficult times with a story that will make you want to hug the humans you love. Sometimes it's the sorrows that threaten to break us apart that ultimately unite us in hope. The award-winning book, Incurable Optimist: Living with Illness and Chronic Hope, is available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook format from Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, and wherever books are sold. Details about the book will be listed in the podcast notes or by clicking the link in this message. So they can actually picture
Yes.
what their mother's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very nice story in the book somewhere. It gives you actually an insight in how things are strange. This was an Iranian guy who was in a traffic accident and was taken to a hospital. And in the hospital, he was on a gurney. They took him to the operating room because he needed operation. And while going through the hospital, he noticed that he could go through walls. He was not in his body, he was hovering above it. So every time they went through a door, he had to go through the wall, and that was possible. And during the operation, he was registrating what the nurse was thinking. He then thought, what is my mother doing at the moment? Because he knew that the mother didn't know about this accident that he had at that moment, or just a little bit before. So he thought of her, and when he was thinking of her, he was in that house of the mother, who lived somewhere many miles away. And she was not aware of what had happened to her son, but she was making dinner, and he saw that. And he was thinking of friends. And at that moment, he was in the house of the friends. But he was also at that moment, at the same time, in the house of the mother. He was also in the operating room. He saw everything at the same time. And about
Unbelievable.
time, there are really people that say that there is this wonderful quote that it's, in my book, I have hundreds of quotes of
Yeah.
NDEers. And I do that because it gives you a good impression of what an NDE is. Otherwise, you have to read hundreds of stories, but the quotes are very nice. And there's a lot of quotes about time. Some people say there is no time on the other side. Or one person, and I love that quote, he said, all time is at the same time. So I can look through history, I can see my birth, I can see what I did throughout my life. I could see before my life. I could see anything. I could also see the future. I could also see 1,000 years in the future. Those are quotes that are in the book from people who've had such an experience.
And after a while, do they repeat? Is there a repeating pattern from all these people? Like, do you hear the same things, similar stories over and over?
The interesting thing is not one NDE is the same as another. So they are all different. But where they have something similar or
Yeah,
in common, that
yeah.
is where they say they have been on the other side of life. So they realize that they are dead. One person said, "Well, I I now realize that this is death. I must be dead now." And then this person has a very deep NDE. So the idea that you are dead, that you're on the other side, that there is something more than only the physical body that you have and your consciousness in that body. Apparently your consciousness can be outside your body too, and that is something that is reoccurring in all these NDEs. Another thing that reoccurs is the feeling, so that there is no death. That's the idea. And other thing is that they feel that there is unconditional love. There is so much love on the other side, and people sometimes even say the word unconditional is doesn't uh, give the real thing. It's more than that. It's more than just unconditional word, because that word is just meaningless. It's so much more. And another thing that I discovered that is in so many NDEs is that there is that we all are part of this big oneness. There is one, or we are very closely connected with each other, so closely connected that we are actually one. There are so many of these stories out there. It's really interesting that that is something that I find very interesting, and one of the three main items of an NDE.
Yeah. Now, what do you think is the universal function of this phenomena? And please tell our audience about life reviews and NDEs and their importance.
Yeah, the life reviews I find very, very important and very interesting as well. So, as I said, not every NDE is the same as another. They're all different. So not everyone has a life review. But if people have had a life review, it's really overwhelming. And it's because not only that you can see whatever you did in your life, every second, every day of your life, but the thing is that you feel everything from every point of view. So what you did to others, you feel not only from your own point of view, but also from the point of view of the other side. And you also feel it from a neutral point of view, a point of view that has no um, no view, not a positive, not a negative, but when
No
you're in
judgment.
your no judgment. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the whole thing. But that's also in you. So you have three points of view from out of your own body, your not your body, but your own point of view, the point of view of the other. You are the receiver of what you did. So if it's good, you will be very happy. If it's less than good, then you will be a little bit more sad, but also from a more neutral point of view. And to give you an example, there has been one of the people in my book. She was a Dutch lady in the Netherlands. Just after the war, she was a very small child who went to primary school, and just after the Second World War, we didn't have anything. It was a war-torn country, no luxury goods, no sweets. The mother made something and gave it to her daughter to bring to school and share with friends. And she did that. And in her life review, later on in life, when she had a medical critical situation, she had her life review and she saw that particular moment in time. And she saw what that did to the schoolgirl, her friend, how valuable she thought it was to share that suite with her, with the NDEer. And the NDEer saw it from the point of view of her friend. But she saw it also from the point of view of the mother and further, because she said there is a kind of a ripple effect. Whatever you do, it has an effect not only where you do it, but it goes further than just where you are. And she had an interesting thing is that she had another moment in her life review that was very important, because that was a not so very nice moment. There was a school friend who had lice, these little
Yeah.
monsters that are in your hair,
Yeah, little bugs. Yeah.
and they're horrible. So and that time you didn't have shampoo, so you had to do that mechanically with your hands.
To all patients and caregivers out there, Rare Patient Voice, a supporter of the It's a Wrap with Rap podcast, is paying for your input. Patients 16 years and older and caregivers, family, and friends of any disability, disorder, syndrome, illness, or condition have the opportunity to express their opinions through surveys and interviews to improve medical products and services. Who knows your journey better than you? Rare Patient Voice puts you in touch with researchers who are developing products and services that can help you and others with your condition. These researchers need input of patients to develop products and services that have a significant impact on patients' lives. Over the past 9 years, Rare Patient Voice has paid patients over $10 million. When you join Rare Patient Voice, you may be invited to participate in interviews, surveys, or online communities where you will share your insights. Rare Patient Voice has hundreds of studies running at any time, so there are many opportunities to participate. You will earn $120 per hour or $2 a minute, depending on the length of the survey, for participating in these studies. By making your voice heard, you are a catalyst for change. Rest assured, your input will be used to help other patients like you. There is no cost at all for you to participate. You can get more information and sign up by clicking the link in the sponsor's notes of this podcast or the link provided in this announcement.
And she asked one of the school friend asked the NDEer, "Can you help me?" And then the NDEer made a big fuss out of it. And by doing that, she exposed her girlfriend, her school friend, um, that she had lice. And when she had her life review later on, she noticed that moment in time and she felt what it was for the school friend. And it felt like she'd been stabbed in the heart. And the interesting thing is that she said, it's not that it was horrible, that I felt the pain on behalf of my school friend. But the most horrible thing was that I saw I had alternative options that were better, that were nicer, that were more loving. And I missed out on those. And missing out on those loving options, that was really what hurt her so much. So that is also a kind of lesson that we can take in for ourselves. Try to do nice to others
Yeah.
because you will feel it from the other side as well.
Now, Bob, there also seems to be distressing NDEs in a subset of people experiencing NDEs. Can you discuss that? And can good people have distressing NDEs and bad people have good NDEs? Or doesn't having a distressing NDE have anything to do with what type of person you may be classified as based on your actions?
Well, that's a really good question. Distressing NDEs is a subset, a small subset of the NDEs that we know, all the NDEs that there are. And as we said at the start, not everyone comes out with their distressing NDE. It is also something that gives you shame if you have had such an experience, because in our society we judge. So we also judge people who've had a distressing NDE. We will say, oh, then probably you must have been a bad person. And what we discovered in our research is that that's not the case. In principle, and that might shock your listeners, in principle, everyone can have a distressing NDE. It's a minority, but it's still possible. And we have many examples where just average people, just like, well, you and me, I never did anything really bad, but I've done bad things in my life. I'm just a human person like anyone. But that just common people have had a distressing NDE. There's also cases where people that we would call perhaps bad have had a blissful NDE. Maybe I can give you an example there, because there is Daniel Brinkley. He wrote his story, his blissful NDE, written in a book written by Paul Perry and himself. And he said about himself that he was really an awful guy because he was in school, he was awful to others. He stole, he was in a lot of fights and stuff like that. He was really terrible child at the time. And then later he went working for an organization that went killing off people for the government. It must have been some kind of government agency. He didn't mention which one,
Yeah.
but he went to several places and killed people. And in one case, he blew up a whole hotel with 50 people in it,
Wow.
just to take out one person. Nevertheless, when he had his NDE as a result of phoning on a landline during a storm, he was hit with electricity, and he had a blissful NDE. He said, "My life review was awful. My life review was awful because I had to go through all the lives of the people that I killed, but not only them, also the lives of the women that these guys left behind. Apparently, there were a lot of those who were guys, and they left women behind and children. And he felt the pain on behalf of the children as well. But nevertheless, he was met with unconditional love, no judgment. Everything was good. Uh, he went later. He went working for hospices. So that's another thing. People who've had an NDE change thoroughly. It's a life changer. So how he was before, this awful guy that was in countless fights and stuff, changed over to being a much more nicer person. There are also cases in my book where just a common person, in this case, I had a story of a woman who had a distressing NDE, and she said, "I have no idea why I should have had that because I led a life, a normal life,
Yeah.
nothing special. I say she didn't kill off 50 people just to take out one,
Right.
but she had a distressful NDE. Most of the distressing NDEs will end eventually will end in a good way, and that's what I believe. I think that eventually um, all the distressing NDEs will finally flow into this wonderful unconditional love thing. And there are also NDEers who say that explicitly. There's one in my book. He said, "I heard on the other side that there is no hell and no purgatory." So he was very sure about that. And another one said, "We all go home." And there are many of those people who have had such an NDE and that say, "We all go home. There is no hell. There is no purgatory. There's no judgment." Most people would say there is no judgment, but a minority would really argue. They say everyone goes to this wonderful place. Everyone, no exception. And I find that logical. Why would one part of the people be just left out? A random sample of the people, like you just take every, I don't know, 100th person and you put that one through hell. Why? That's not logical because there is also this idea that we are all one. Why would one part of oneness be left out in a disarray? That's not logical.
What was your view, Bob, on life and death before you did all this research? What what was your view then?
And that's interesting. I was raised Roman Catholic, and Roman Catholicism, there's heaven, there's hell, and there's purgatory. I never, as small as I never thought the hell and purgatory part was right. But I love the idea that we all go somewhere. So when I read this in Raymond Moody's book, I thought this thing about near-death experiences, that's the real thing. And religions no matter what religion, they cannot know how the real thing is, uh, because those are written in books long, long ago, and they might have changed. So the information may not be 100% correct anymore. We can talk to people now who say they have been on the other side, and there are veridical observations that support their stories. And I find that more convincing than reading the Bhagavad Gita or the Quran or the Bible or whatever. Uh, my private uh, opinion.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to get
But
that.
that's how I came into doing this, because I really thought this idea of hell and purgatory didn't
Yeah, you
wasn't
questioned it.
right.
You
Yes, I
questioned it.
questioned it. Yeah.
Now, I have an interesting question for you. I was thinking, what are the time lengths that NDEs last? And has anyone in a, say, a prolonged comatose state, talked about it happening to them for a sustained period of time, unlike other NDEers who might have just had it in a fleeting moment?
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting question. It's really, but that's something that I cannot answer, because we know that some NDEers say they were out just 37 seconds,
Right.
but they experienced like a whole week. Others say I was there for years. I have experienced so much. Others say it's just it's a short story, but the time being out was long. And about so it's not clear um, how long you need for it. Again, on the other side, there is no time. You have to remember that. So
Yeah.
if you're out here for just a second, or maybe 37 seconds, like one person wrote in her book, that's a short period of time, but she experienced a lot, because there is no.
Robert Christophor Coppes, a guest and supporter of the It's a Rap with Rap podcast, scientist and retired financier, has studied near-death experiences for decades and has lectured on this topic in the United States and Europe. His book, Impressions of Near-Death Experiences, Quotations from over 100 experiencers, gives us an impression of what near-death experiences are like by giving many hundreds of quotes from more than 100 experiencers from all over the world and from many cultural backgrounds. The book will entice you to put your traditional ideas aside while reading the quotes and sensing how they feel for you. The reader will let go of whatever ways they have been programmed by their upbringing or by religion, and will open their mind to receive whatever wisdom that can be found in these testaments of people who have experienced the first moments of physical death. There is a large growing number of these extraordinary experiences, and most of them have had a profound impact on the people who had such experiences. So there must be something in them. They cannot simply be ignored. What is remarkable is that a subset of these near death experiences consist of so called veridical observations, meaning they are observations near death experiencers made and that were subsequently independently verified observations that near death experiencers could have only made if their consciousness was outside their bodies. Like the number of near death experiences, the number of these veridical observations is growing quickly as well. This seems to give circumstantial evidence that our consciousness can exist separately from our body. If such is the case, then we may conclude that near death experiences are not only extraordinary, but they are also real, and humanity needs to heed their important messages. The book includes such topics as the life review, distressing near death experiences, the question why are we on Earth, and the after effects of near death experiences, all of which the near death experiencer has been exposed to. What we may learn from this important book is that it is all about love and compassion toward yourself and others, and that everything and everybody is always connected. This wonderful book, Impressions of Near Death Experiences, quotations from over 100 experiencers, has the potential to break many taboos about our current ideas about life and death. And we can reap the benefits of the near death experience without having to nearly die. This book is highly recommended for those seeking deeper understanding of this fascinating aspect of human experience. The book is available in paperback and Kindle formats from Amazon. Information about the book will be listed in the podcast notes or by clicking the link in this announcement.
No time on the other side. And the sequence in which things play out is difficult too. The tunnel is not all that people see. Not everyone sees a tunnel and go through the tunnel, see light at the end of the tunnel. Some people place the tunnel in a later point of view in the sequence, so it's like it's blurred. It's not clear where the tunnel is. Um, and then you said something about coma. There
Well,
is,
yeah, I mean, there might have been people that were in an induced coma
yes,
for a month or more. It's very happens all the time. And then they come out of the coma and they're talking about an NDE. So I was just extrapolating,
yeah,
with the time, but of course there's no time on the other side.
yeah.
But I'm just wondering, was there a story about just a longer version of what happened? In other words,
Uh, Yeah, it's not that's not really clear, but I wanted to mention also Ibn Alexander's case. That's a brain surgeon, um, and he had an NDE himself. He didn't believe any of this
yeah,
beforehand, but after his own experience, um, with a vertical component in it, he was convinced. And the thing is that he was in a coma as well. He had inflammation of I don't know how you call that of the outer part of the brain. Um, anyway, he was in a coma, and in his coma he had hallucinations, and he had his near-death experience, and he said, I know what the difference is between both. The hallucinations is a chaotic experience that has no storyline. There is no logic to it. Whereas the NDE part, where you know that you are in this really reality that is really real, you know there is a storyline, there's a logic to it, there's information, that's real. So uh, he could distinguish between the hallucination part and the NDE part. I think that's very important.
yeah,
And I just wanted to stress as well that NDEers, they really are convinced that what they have experienced is real. Moreover, most of them would say it's more real than our daily life. Some people say those are quotes from my book. One person said, "This what we are going through is just a black and white television. On the other side, it's color television." So just
okay.
to make the distinction between a lower level of reality and a higher level of reality.
Have NDEers explained uh, their opinion of why we're on Earth?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's one of the chapters in my book. You know, there's in my book I have a lot of chapters that cover ground that is referred to in a lot of NDEs, like life review is one of the chapters. Unconditional love is one of them. Oneness is one of them, and this is also one of them. And it's interesting. Some people just bluntly ask in their NDE, "Why are we on Earth?" And other people don't ask for it, but they get that as a kind of a bonus. They're just being told why that is. And the interesting thing is, it goes to many places. There's a lot of answers. Most of the answers are like, it is about love. You have to experience love. You have to find love. You have to give love. Those everything that has to do with love, that is important. uh. Um, Others have said, well, we don't have. So, yeah, others say we need to learn things. Um, but there are also NDEers that say, no, we don't need to learn anything because we have the perfection, the light, the perfect light and the perfect love. We already have that within us because we come from that other place where there is this source of love and light, this unconditional love. So we know that it's somewhere in us. We just need to find it and express it. Express your divine love that we all have within us. And yet another group of people say, you know, this world is made for is made by God for God, because God was kind of bored on the other side because everything is nice and good there. So God seemed to make an a universe with limitations, with time and place, so to have fun. That's really what some people say. I just give you the quotes of people
Yeah,
that have
yeah,
had an NDE. So it's one said God went to the movies. He made the movies himself because that's our world that we are in. And actually, in this case, God is um, experiencing life through us because we are all from God. So your life experiences are for God because God is within you. God is also within me. God is within every listener. It may sound very strange, but that is what a lot of NDEers say. We are having the divinity within us and it experiences life through us.
that makes sense. I just want to clarify for our viewers and listeners. You use the term uh verdict verdicto uh ver, verdicto. It sounds like vertical.
Oh, veridical observations. So veridical
Yeah, and I
observations,
think I
that's,
think a lot of viewers
yeah.
around the world might be thinking, "Oh, what's he talking about? Vertical." Can you just tell us what the definition of that is?
Yeah, it's like verifiable
Verifiable.
out of
Okay.
body experiences. So
Okay.
when an NDEer, typically an NDEer says, I was outside my body. My consciousness was outside my body. And then you can walk around well, you never walk, but you float, kind of,
Right.
you are there. So you can let me give you an example there. A woman that I know, who is in my book as well, she had a head-on collision with another car that turned into her lane. So when she came to in her consciousness back again, because first she was out, she was unconscious, and when she was conscious again, she was not sitting in the car, but she was hovering above the scene and looking down to the scene. So then she can see what is happening. What she saw was that the guy in the other car, he was not unconscious, came out of the car, went over to her car, turned off the lights in her car just to give the impression to the police later that she was driving without lights and that he hadn't seen her. So she had been seeing all that. Unfortunately, this was not confirmed later on, so it is not a veridical observation, but she says it was true. But a veridical observation is only when it has been verified independently by
Okay.
someone else.
Okay.
And those stories are there, so many.
Now, what do you get, excuse me, out of your research on a personal level that you can practice daily in your life since you never experienced an NDE and knowing a life review will be upon you someday?
You know, you don't need to have an NDE yourself in order to change by these experiences. So when you read a lot of those, as I did, or when you speak to a lot of NDEers like I did, understand, you start to understand a little bit of what they had gone through, and you change in the same way. The interesting thing with NDEers is that they become less interested in money and power. They become more interested in other people and what they go through, and in the animal world and in nature. um, so those are typical things that happen, that those happen to me too. And also people and the ears become less religious and more spiritual. So I moved also a little bit away from the Roman Catholic Church, but I still believe in heaven. I think that Jesus has walked this earth and was a wonderful teacher. Really, his teachings are total love. We never practice that. All the people, well, many people who are in churches don't practice what he said. Um, and I think if people would really go into NDEs, understand them, understand that there is a basis for these to be true through those veridical observations that are verified independently, then people might change in the same way that I changed, and in the same way that NDEers change. And then I think we will have a better world.
Yes,
Eventually, I
because
believe that.
they all change for the better. Is there a cultural element in NDEs, and is it limited to to specific groups of people?
No, anyone can have it. Like
Okay.
everyone from any walk of life can have an NDE, and that's has been shown already. Um, they occur everywhere in the world. They occur in China, in Australia, in India, in Europe, in the United States, South America, you name it. They are everywhere. The cultural element is maybe the religious part in it. Like people in Christian countries like the US and Europe, they would typically have encounters, not always, but some say they have met Jesus. People in India will not typically meet Jesus, but they would meet, those stories are there, Krishna or other deities from Hinduism. In Islamic countries, like in Iran, people would meet deities or important religious figures from their religion. So I don't know what to make out of this. Maybe it's just something of the imagination, but maybe all these important religious people have really lived and show themselves to the NDEer. You know, the other side is welcoming. If you really only believe in Jesus Christ, you would be startled to see Buddha or to see Muhammad or Krishna. So they won't go there. But eventually, when we leave away all the stuff from Earth and you adapt to the new situation, you will understand everything. That's what I believe. We will eventually understand the whole thing, accept it because we are from there. We came from there. We lead our lives here in our body. And when the body dies, we go back again. But we need to, it's like waking up. You, some people can wake up very quickly and run around quickly. I need my morning is like trying to adapt to the new new day.
You need your coffee.
I have to do that slowly. I can imagine that for NDEers, that's for people who die, it will be the same way. Maybe some people are like, it's fine, we'll just rush around again in the new thing. But others need a little quiet moment.
Now, for the sake of time, because I could sit here all day with you, banter back and forth about this.
I
But
love it too.
yeah, now we have the defibrillator, we have CPR, we have life-saving techniques.
Yeah.
We are in the early stages of NDE science. As more people have NDEs in the future due to medical advancements, what do you see for mankind in the next decades going forward regarding this phenomena?
I do believe that when more people have these NDEs and more people become vocal, and I know a number of your listeners will have had such an experience.
Oh,
I
sure.
just can tell them, please speak out because it's important that your relatives and friends hear about that. Moreover, if you keep it to yourself, it is something that you that will not sit well with you. I know that most people want to be open about what they have gone through, and I think that if that happens more often, and when there are more of these veridical observations where things have been verified, that other people who have not had an NDE will look that in that direction as well and be touched by the NDEs. You can change um, also without an NDE, and I really believe that it is the purpose of our world, of our universe, is that we have to develop into a more loving way. We are
Oh,
not loving at this moment.
no,
There's a lot of there's a lot of stuff going on. There's wars going on. There's governments that are not nice to their own people and stuff like that. So there's it's something that we need to change, and it will
absolutely.
change.
What is in your future, Bob, on this topic going forward? Are you going to continue on your journey with this?
Yes, at the moment I'm board member of the International Association for Near-Death Studies, and we organize conferences. Our next conference is going to be in Chicago. It's on in the weekend of Labor Day, so at the end of August. It will attract like hopefully maybe 1,000 people. And it's a very nice atmosphere there because there's a lot of NDEers there. There's a lot of researchers there that have not had an NDE but are informed and are interested, and people who have not had an NDE but are interested. So the atmosphere is totally different than when you would be on a conference with financial people or so. Just name a or medical people or whatever or
Right.
cars. It will be different, and that's really nice. It's open to everyone,
Oh,
and
it
it's
is.
on the
Okay.
website of IANDS. It's iands.org. And you can find all the information there.
Okay. So, will it be available virtually as well?
Yeah, you can do that on Zoom as well.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't
Great.
have to go to Chicago, but Chicago is a nice place.
Yeah, absolutely. What is your contact information if people want to get a hold of you?
Yeah, there is my website. It's bobcoppes.com. So Coppes is COPPES.
Uh-huh.
.com, and there's also, if people want to contact me, there is a form that they can fill out, and I will
Okay.
always answer.
And for people out there listening or viewing, we're going to put that in the podcast notes. So I want to thank you, Bob, for being on the podcast, enlightening us on this subject, and I wish you good fortune going forward with all your work. It was a pleasure
Thank
having
you.
you on.
just quickly flashing my
Oh,
own book there,
absolutely, absolutely.
Impressions of Near-Death Experiences, with
Yes,
all those quotes. And I think it's a nice read. Well, you
yes.
said that too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Comments and suggestions for the podcast, you can email me at it's a wrap with rap at gmail.com. Our Facebook group, we have a couple thousand people in there already. It's a private group, so it's not public. So if you want to get in, just email me. I'll let you in if you're a Facebook member or on Facebook, obviously. Instagram is It's a Wrap with Rap Podcast. We're on X, which is at Rapper, WRAPPER 130. We're on YouTube. All the episodes are on YouTube. They're unedited. It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast uncut. Our website is itsawrapwithrap.com. I want to thank everyone for listening or viewing. I want everybody to please stay safe. And for now, it's a wrap.